Hello, back with the bookshelf tours. I've been using the number thing, which I'll probably keep on doing in my descriptive label, but for here, maybe it's more ideal to just say I'm starting with the L's now. We just thought Corman, so yes, we've got the L's with another book, Jumpra Lamprey, Interpreter of Maladies. I think I've heard good things about her. I've heard good things, I've heard things. So someone I should probably try at some point. That's why I've got her book. Anthony Lane, movie critic at the New Yorker, um, with his young God, I work at the New Yorker kind of photograph there. Um, interesting critic. I think there was a controversy about him sexualizing what's her name in The Incredibles, the mother in The Incredibles, children's cartoon. I can't remember exactly what the controversy was exactly. Unfortunately, or whatever, with how our brains are constructed, cartoon characters often get sexualized. And boy, Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl, Elasti-Woman, has been sexualized a ton. It's funny that that's what comes up there. I remember really enjoying this book of essays of his work. However, I cannot remember the exact controversy there. It's just funnily what just comes to mind. I've got a couple of books by Kenneth Lee. Kenneth Lee, who I'll probably bump into later. I think this was my buying everything I can of Kenneth Lee section because, yeah, I picked this up obviously from the Vancouver Island Regional Library sale. The slash across it, Saint Fire, and Elephantism. I can't remember if I may have actually tried Elephantism, which was her setting it in a uh, India kind of context, which I don't think I found as successful as kind of more her hard fantasy, just because when she used India as a backdrop, it became more uh, then you get into issues of kind of authenticity. Was she getting stuff right? Was she misrepresenting stuff? Versus kind of more straight kind of sword and sort of sorcery fantasy, which is where I'm more used to her from, and perhaps where she's more successful at. I had issues. I have issues there. Then we have Doris Lessing, The Golden Notebook, probably one of the great, Nobel Prize winning author. Probably one of the reasons she was tipped for the Nobel Prize. This book, The Golden Notebook, was put there. I've read it once and I found it like a gloriously depressing book. Like you just wanted to sink into it, and it really got into the psychology of the female characters. Um, she says she's not a feminist, but it is a book that at least is born out of that, very much the ethos of the 70s feminism, which we can, in some ways, we can only aspire to at the moment. Or we're having just the continuing backlash wars against. A very recent one, The Leopard, by Giuseppe di Lampadesta. Now, should this be in D's or in L's? I've put it in L's, because that's where I put it, and that's how my brain works. Amazing work. I picked this up in Italy last year, and is some thin book, but spans from like the Garibaldi's revolution in the late 1900s to nearly kind of modern day, and really gave me a kind of a good sense of of the kind of Italian history and the kind of the stuff going on there, as well as just an amazing portrait of the leopard of the title, the prince. The prince of the title, which indeed seems to have been at least kind of loosely based on Di Lampadesta's own ancestors, of a kind of fading aristocracy, in a change in the time of kind of a revolution with Garibaldi, of kind of falling from being kind of the controlling, dictating force to being, you know, to being an echo, a memory of that, and that kind of the loss of privilege being a theme there, and how women are treated. Even though it's a book that doesn't actually have women get, it's one of those books where women don't have much to say, but the author is always very careful to portray them not saying it, and their reactions, and give you kind of an insight into their psychology. it's an honest way maybe for a male author to be able to portray or to hint at that female experience, which then yeah, which I thought, I mean, he's not a feminist, but it's someone who's not excluding 50% of the population because of their gender. He's actually is commenting on how the Italian society kind of treated those women. So yes, we've got the Diary of Anais Nin, which I have talked about not on this channel, but on another one, where this was one of my entry points into literature. I picked up not this, but a copy of Anais Nin's diaries. She being kind of the early kind of she was one of those I guess sort of emigres or people who were in Paris. Here, I'm going to rest my hand. In Paris, I fell in with the kind of the bohemian crowd. Was there at kind of the cusp of psychology coming to a fore. A lot of her own psychoanalyst, her very troubled relationship with her father being kind of shyly echoed, especially in the expurgated versions of the book. The ones that were censored by herself, leaving out a lot of the kind of the more darker parts of her life, a incestuous relationship with her father being the primary one that comes to mind. I had no idea about that when I read these. And they do have a kind of a claustrophobic feel to them because you're so inside of Nin's head. And was just a part of kind of my entry into literature, these journals. So I will always have a fond place in my heart for that, even as they're definitely very dark books. At least my memory of them. I picked this up in thoughts of at some point, 1931 to 34, of saying like, oh, what are my memories of it, and what are the actual fact. And here I'll finish off. We'll have a lot more L's and other stuff below this. This is definitely my large N and L's. This is Garth Nix's Lyrial, which is book 2 in his Abhorsen series. Book that I bought. This particular volume of Lyrial I bought quite a few of, just because it features Lyrial, this shy woman in a magical library that is endless, and her disreputable dog pal, but just sort of the sort of sense of loneliness and isolation and bookishness, which for some reason resonates with a shy, lonely, bookish person like myself. Regardless of, maybe that kind of overtook the book and skews it poorly structurally, but emotionally, I have a lot of fondness for this book. So yet again, my own personal prejudice get in the way of objective book reading, which I disbelieve. I do not believe objective book reading exists. It can be used. You can use kind of objective criteria, I think, to judge a book. But in the end of the day, the books that you're going to hold close to your heart are the ones that, for very subjective and personal reasons, are going to resonate with you. Now, there can be lots of objective writerly craft and structure and language that then amplify that and make books truly great and truly sink into you. But yeah, so there, in my very personal library tour. Let's finish there, and we'll go down to more M's and L's and all that sort of stuff to tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow because I've been doing this daily things on my library tour. See you later.